And welcome back to day 5 of Popcornween, whatever that means. And oh, you lucky ducks are in for a treat, because I'm going over the greatest horror movie ever made. Well, based on the budget. Yeah, I know, The Exorcist, bleh. But for the cost, all the hard work, and the actual movie they created, this is by far the best horror film. On top of being the greatest horror movie ever made, it's part of the greatest trilogy ever made. Shut up, Lord of the Ring nerds. That whole trilogy should have been 10 minutes long. Why didn't you just use the giant eagles in the first place?
Ask why didn't they just fly the eagles to Mordor? It would have made the quest a whole lot easier. And I told him the same thing that I'm telling you right now. Shut up.
Sam Raimi would have had an answer. Just saying. Stupid JR token. Anyway, of course we're talking about 1981's classic, The Evil Dead.
I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment.
So, if you haven't seen this movie, and you're a horror fan, I guess you've been living under a rock. Obviously, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but the plot isn't exactly complicated. A group of young people go off to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and what was supposed to be a drug-filled orgy got ruined when some nerd wanted to read a book. Man, books ruin everything. Even a recording of a book.
No! You must not read from the book!
Different movie, but you get the point. So the magic words were said, and all hell breaks loose. We find out how Groots are made, and spoiler, it's awful. People start turning into monsters, and a fight to stay alive turns into a bloody... I don't even have the word for it. So that's my short little synopsis. I really want to talk about how this movie was made and what it did to me as a kid. I mean, I was way too young to watch this damn thing. To this day, I have a fear of trees. A woman laughing still gives me chills. Thank God that's not real. This movie messed me up so bad I didn't even bother watching the next two for years. I didn't even know they were comedies. Alright, enough about traumatized little Ken. Let's get into the making of this movie and why it's a little bittersweet. These days, Sam Raimi is a household name to anyone that, appreciates movies. But in 1979, he was just some college dropout who wanted to make movies with his buddies. And even though It's Murder is technically his first movie, really it's The Evil Dead that's his actual first film. And boy did he go balls to the wall. Technically they had scripts and contracts, but this really was done on a bare minimum budget and very guerrilla style. It really was him and a bunch of his friends making a movie in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee. And it really was figure it out as you go along. Everyone on set had 10 jobs. On any given day, you could be the makeup guy, the camera guy, the lighting guy, the cook, the medic on set. And boy did they need it, because my God, this was by all accounts a nightmare to film. Things like injuries were commonplace.
Ow! 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 God damn.
Makeup and contacts that were more like torture than movie magic.
They were about this big. They covered your whole eyeball, unlike normal contacts that just cover your iris. So all those scenes where any of us are possessed with the white eyes, we are totally blind.
I wound up using acrylic paint, which it even says in the tube, don't put it on your skin. But I used that to paint the masks as well as the actors' faces.
On top of all of that, this was the early 80s. There was no internet, they had no actual bathrooms or running water, no place to go get warm. I mean, these people really had to tough this out for a movie they didn't even know people would want to watch. Sam Raimi put these people through hell, and his only thought was their pain would make their suffering more believable on screen. Damn it, people were built different back then.
It wasn't just that we were shooting in the cold and that we were shooting in a building with no electricity and plumbing and all that. It was the waiting time.
You gotta understand, we didn't have space heaters. I mean, there were no trailers.
despite all that, Sam Raimi was able to produce a masterpiece. And this is where the bittersweet part is for me. Sam Raimi was just a guy that loved movies and decided to make them on his own. Much like a Steven Spielberg, he just got to start making Super 8 films in his backyard and just taught himself how to make movies. Imagine if they had half the editing equipment we have now that you can find free online. Somehow we have mind-blowing special effects, but a tenth of the imagination we used to have. But this isn't about current movies and what's going on now. This is about a kick-ass horror movie that no one saw coming. And if it wasn't for praise from Stephen King at a film festival, this movie might have been forgotten. Now, with how badass this movie is, maybe it shouldn't be so early in the list, but I just had to talk about it. It's really rare that the filming of the movie is almost as interesting as the movie itself. But that's one of the reasons why this movie is awesome. And if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend that you do, preferably with the lights on, if this is your first scary movie. Thanks for watching, and, enjoy the rest of 31 days of Popcornween. We got a little competition going to see who does the best video and gets the most views. Obviously, I have the superior product, but if my videos don't get the views, I'm going to resort to tricks like screaming like Semper, or a bunch of annoying jump cuts like Til. And nobody wants that. Scare you later.